Today we're making a proper chicken Caesar salad, and I'm going to show you a few small things that make a huge difference in flavor. Most Caesar salads are honestly pretty bland, but with a few simple techniques you can turn it into one of the best salads you'll ever make. So today I'll show you 3 secrets to take a Caesar salad from average to restaurant quality. First thing I like to do is prep the lettuce. One thing I always do in my kitchen is I work from the easiest cleanup to the hardest. It's a lot easier to cut lettuce and wipe down a board than it is to cut raw chicken and have to sanitize everything. So I like to knock out all the simple prep first before we get into the proteins. For the romaine, I like to keep it simple. I'll cut the heads lengthwise, then turn them and cut them again so I end up with bite-sized pieces. You want pieces that are big enough to hold the dressing but still easy enough to eat. Once that's cut, I'll move it into my salad spinner. You can soak it right in the basket, or you can do what I'm doing here and transfer it to the larger bowl. I like to soak the lettuce in cold water for a couple minutes so any dirt falls to the bottom. Then I'll lift the lettuce out, put it into the spinner, and spin it until it's nice and dry. Washing it like this doesn't just clean the lettuce, the cold water actually helps re-crisp the romaine, which makes the salad a lot better. You'll see there's still quite a bit of water in here, so it's really nice to have a good salad spinner. This one's from OXO. I think it was about 20 bucks when I bought it. It works really well. Once the lettuce is dry, I'll just put it back into this container and store it in the fridge. If you don't have space for that, you can always keep it in a bowl lined with paper towels. Next thing we're going to work on is the croutons. I always keep a bag like this in the fridge where we save sourdough bread scraps. It's just a reusable bag, and whenever we have leftover bread, it goes in here. Sometimes we'll turn it into panko for breaded chicken. Sometimes we make croutons. But our kids absolutely love croutons, so that's typically what we make. So I'll just pull a few pieces out and cut them into bite-sized chunks. I like my croutons pretty big and rustic. I think it's because I've had so many store-bought croutons over the years and they're always tiny. So I like these to have a little more substance and be more rustic and bigger. I also bake these a little differently than most people. I'll show you that in a minute. And it actually works really well when the croutons are bigger like this. I'll put these onto a sheet pan and drizzle them with some really good extra virgin olive oil, along with some salt and pepper. I'll make a separate video at some point about the differences in olive oil, but extra virgin is what I use for most things. It has great flavor and it really does make a difference, especially on something as simple as croutons. I'll just toss these with my hands until they're more evenly coated. I actually made 2 sheet pans of these because my kids love croutons so much. So we'll bake these at 390 degrees. My timer says 20 minutes, but I'm really only cooking them for about 8 minutes. The important thing to remember is that cooking times are always going to vary. Every oven is different, and even on different days it can affect it. So it's really important to cook based on texture and doneness, not just time. While the croutons finish in the oven, we can start grating our Parmesan. This is Parmigiano Reggiano, which is a little more expensive than regular Parmesan, but it's the real deal. It has better flavor, it's saltier, and overall it's just a much better product than the cheaper Parmesan you'll usually find at the store. Alright, so here's the first little secret. When I make croutons, I don't cook them until they're completely crunchy all the way through. I like them crisp on the outside, but still soft and a little chewy in the center. You can see the olive oil in these, they're really nice. This style of crouton is actually great in things like a panzanella salad too. The reason I like them this way is because you get multiple textures in one bite, instead of the exact same crunchy texture every time. This adds a lot more depth and complexity to the dish. Alright, now we're finally getting to the Caesar dressing, which is probably why you clicked on this video. The good news is that this is actually really easy to make, because we're going to use an immersion blender. So the first thing we'll do is peel 2 cloves of garlic. I'm just going to slice these really thin and add them right into the jar. Next we'll add a little Worcestershire sauce and some Dijon mustard. The Dijon adds great flavor, but it also helps stabilize the emulsion so the dressing stays nice and creamy. Then we'll cut a lemon in half and squeeze the juice right into the jar. Next we'll add in the anchovies. Maybe you didn't know this, but traditional Caesar dressing actually includes anchovies. You just want to get the anchovies, you don't actually want the oil. Anchovies are really important in Caesar dressing because they add umami, that deep, savory flavor. They don't make the dressing taste fishy at all, they just give it a lot more depth. Once those are in there, we'll add our Parmesan cheese, and then we'll take our immersion blender to this and just blend it up until it becomes a nice smooth paste. I love making dressings with an immersion blender because it's so simple. You can just put everything into a jar, press the button, and the dressing comes together in seconds. Now that we have that blended into a paste, we'll add our egg and the extra virgin olive oil. Everything just goes right into the jar, and then we'll blend it with the immersion blender until it becomes smooth and creamy. One really important thing when you're cooking is to taste as you go, and not just blindly follow a recipe. When I made this dressing, I used my usual recipe, but I was using a different extra virgin olive oil than I normally do. This one had a lot more flavor, which is great, but it actually changed the balance of the dressing a little bit. So after tasting it, I realized it needed a few adjustments. I added some more anchovies, a little more Parmigiano Reggiano, and another splash of Worcestershire sauce. Then I blended it again and tasted it until everything felt balanced. That's really the key to cooking. Taste it, adjust it, and make it taste right to you. Sometimes you might try a recipe and you think it could be better with something else. Make the change. It's okay to change the food or the recipe. You want it to taste perfect to you. All right, now that our dressing is finished, we can move on to marinating the chicken. I'll start by mincing some garlic. I'm just going to chop this pretty fine. It doesn't have to be perfect. Then we'll add some fresh thyme. I actually just cut back a lot of the herbs in my garden, so we have quite a bit of thyme right now. This is probably one of my favorite herbs to eat, but honestly one of my least favorite to cook with because it takes a little time to strip the leaves off and chop it up, but the flavor is absolutely worth it. I'll add the garlic and thyme to a bowl and drizzle in some extra virgin olive oil. Then we'll add our chicken. Today we're using boneless, skinless chicken thighs here, and season everything with some salt and pepper. Give it a good mix so the chicken is evenly coated, and then we'll let it marinate in the fridge for at least 4 hours before we cook it off. Now it's time to cook the chicken. I'm using a cast iron pan over fairly high heat. We'll add a little extra virgin olive oil and let that heat up until the pan is smoking hot. Then we'll add the chicken thighs. You want the pan nice and hot when the chicken goes in so you get a really good sear. We actually have a really good stove, but our kitchen hood can't quite keep up with it. So every time I flip the chicken to sear the other side, it tends to set off the smoke alarm, which is why you don't hear much sound in this part of the video. When I'm cooking something like this, I like to get a really good sear on one side, then I'll flip it and I'll finish it in the oven. That way it doesn't stay in the pan too long and overcook. So that's exactly what we'll do with this chicken. While the chicken finishes cooking, we can go ahead and build the salad. So we'll start with a bowl and add our romaine lettuce, croutons, and some of that Parmigiano Reggiano. Then we'll season the salad lightly with some salt and pepper and add our Caesar dressing. From here, we'll just toss everything together with our hands. Obviously, if you were making this for a lot of people, you might use tongs or wear a glove, but this works perfectly at home. Now for the plating. We'll grab a few handfuls of the salad and add that to a bowl. Then we'll take one of our chicken thighs and we're going to slice this into nice bite-sized pieces. Here's another little trick I like to use. There's a ton of flavor left in that pan from cooking the chicken. It's actually where pretty much all the flavor is. So instead of putting the chicken straight onto the salad, I like to toss it back in the pan for a moment. That coats the chicken with all those brown bits and juices, which adds a ton of flavor. Then we'll place the chicken on top of the salad, finish it with a little more Parmigiano Reggiano, and that's it. And that's the chicken Caesar salad. What really makes this one different is the layers of flavor, from the homemade dressing, to the croutons with multiple textures, to finishing the chicken in the pan to pick up all those brown bits. All those little details add depth to the dish. It's a lot more interesting than just opening a jar of Caesar dressing, tossing it with some romaine, and adding chopped chicken. If you enjoy cooking like this and learning simple techniques that make food taste better, subscribe. We'd love to have you gather at our table.